Welcome back to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Technically, this is supposed to be day 3 of practice, but we, of course, did not practice yesterday due to the weather. I hope you guys enjoyed the rainfill coverage. I really tried to do something that showed some driver personality, showed some of my personality, and hopefully informed you at least on some things that were going to be happening here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Extremely busy day today. Over 3,000 laps turned for all 33 cars. So it was a good day for me, too, I have to say. Right off the bat, shout out to the IndyCar radio guys. I tried to make sure that you couldn't miss that I was going to be on. I was a little bit confused about how long I was going to be on. I thought I was going to be on for like 3 hours. Turned out to be like 30 minutes. I think it was from 3:30 p.m. to 4 p.m., but big shout out to Mark Janes, Nick Yeoman, all the great guys. Davey Hamilton, former Indianapolis 500 competitor, for making that really easy on me to jump in there. Hopefully I'll be able to post the segment of practice coverage that I was on, because people keep telling me it was good. I was as nervous as I could have possibly been. When you think about so many names, going back to Sid Collins, who helped start the radio network, and of course got heroes like Paul Page and Bob Jenkins and Lou Palmer, and then you go Mark Janes, who is the most recent voice of the 500, and then you sit next to the voice of the 500, and you're broadcasting practice for the Indianapolis 500. That's nerve-wracking to say the least, but yeah. So let's stop talking about me. There was tons of stuff happening today. In particular, it looked like everybody was really trying to knock down the walls today, and somehow they didn't. Now, it really needs to be said, with Fast Friday coming up, and if you don't know, if you're new to the Indianapolis 500, the new way Fast Friday is that everyone gets qualifying turbocharger boost. They started doing that about 10 years ago in 2000, well, exactly 10 years ago in 2012, to give a little bit more excitement to qualifying while keeping the race speeds at a quote-unquote manageable pace. What that means is that tomorrow they get the qualifying boost to test their setups and see what they will have for the next 2 days, fingers crossed, of qualifying. Of course, tomorrow the weather's not supposed to really cooperate, so it's going to be very windy. They will, I think, get a whole day of practice in, but when the winds come up and the speeds come up, the danger factor also comes up. And with as many chances as we saw taken today, particularly with some of the rookies to the Indianapolis 500, Jimmie Johnson and Romain Grosjean, I have a feeling, and I don't want to, I just want to warn you, I think we're going to see at least one wall contact tomorrow. So who was fast today? Well, it was the person who was fast the first day, Takuma Sato. And let's take a look at the full 33-car rundown, as well as we're going to have an extra page at the end of this for the no-tow, a.k.a. no aerodynamic draft laps, which will be important for qualifying. There were a lot of qualifying sims happening today. Of course, Sato on top, this time at 227.5 miles per hour. He was at 228 on Tuesday. Scott Dixon, different verse, same as the first with these two. They're the quickest cars right now at the Speedway. David Malukas, the rookie, the fastest driver, or the fastest rookie. Unfortunately, the second fastest Dale Coin cars. The Coin cars have a lot of speed in traffic. J.R. Hildebrand for AJ Foyt Racing. ABC supplied the sponsor on that one. In fourth on the time charts today. That was a late lap and happy hour. Jimmie the Juggernaut Johnson in fifth, still in the 226 mile per hour bracket. He hasn't left the top 5 all week long. Pato O'Ward finally put up a number on the board. A lot of people pointing to his car as one of the better ones in traffic. Marcus Ericsson, always a dark horse, always hanging around there. And keeping the Swedish theme, in 8th, Felix Rosenqvist, who, to my eye, is one of the better cars in traffic. Simon Pagenaud, he goes faster, knows how to go fast around here. Ed Carpenter actually did qualifying sims today and therefore is 10th on the board. Dalton Kellett in 11th, again showing speed for the AJ Foyt Racing team. Rinus VK, who has been one of the fastest in the no-tow times, just kind of quietly pounding away at the speed. Christian Lundgaard in 13th at 225.2 miles an hour. Jack Harvey, his teammate, right alongside him. Marco Andretti, who was pretty bullish on his race car and looked pretty good in traffic. Colton Herta, Scott McLaughlin. We're getting into cars that are very good in traffic. Maybe didn't do qual sims today, but I think those speeds are legit. Connor Daly led the most laps in last year's Indianapolis 500 Kyle Kirkwood seems to be getting a handle on this place at the moment. You know Alex Below's going to be fast in 20th once qualifying comes around. Will Power had the fastest no-toe time on the day in a quiet day for Team Penske, but I'll explain later why it wasn't so quiet. Helio Castroneves, Kyle said, is looking really, really smooth in the car that he won the Indianapolis 500 with last year. Romain Grosjean had a couple of really close moments today. Callum Ilott, you'll hear from his driver coach, Ryan Hunter-Reay, later in this video. Juan Pablo Montoya, again, quiet, but I wouldn't say he's out of contention. Santino Ferrucci is another driver you'll hear from later on in this video. He was experiencing some loose condition, which a lot of people were experiencing understeer today. Graham Rahal in 27th, Alexander Rossi in 28th. You'll hear him on the no-toe times as quite quick. Tony Kanaan looked good in traffic. Sage Karam's another one who focused almost exclusively on qualifying today. Ditto Joseph Newgarden. Devlin DeFrancesco down towards the back, but I think that's because, ironically, he focused a lot more on traffic. And Stephen Wilson still getting the Dragon Speed car up to speed, but at a respectable 222 miles an hour. Now let's take a look at the top 7 in the no-toe times. I mentioned Will Power, 224.325 miles per hour. You think about anywhere between 7 to 10 miles an hour added to that speed tomorrow with the qualifying boost, and then think about if you get a tow, how much faster you might be able to go. 224, that's an immense lap. Rinus VeeKay, 224, just like Will Power. Ed Carpenter at 223.8. You may be noticing a bow tie trend here. Lots of Chevys up front. The fastest at the moment in the no-toes for Honda is Alexander Rossi. Scott McLaughlin is another driver. So many people are tapping as a guy who's going to win this race this year. Sage Karam, Dreyer Reinbold Racing, they have qualified in the back row, I think, the last 3 or 4 years, but he's 6th on the no-toe times at 223, and 7th, Joseph Newgarden, rounding out a quiet day for Team Penske in the 7th spot on the no-toe times. So one thing I observed quite a bit, and I'm sure you did too if you were watching on NBC's Peacock, is that there were quite a few close moments, particularly in turn number 2, where the cars were pushing up towards the wall. Romain Grosjean had one. Well, he got down on the curb, to be fair, that started his. But Jimmie Johnson did too. The two biggest headlines in the race, really from a national and international knowledge base for the casual fan perspective, seemed to be cutting it very, very close. Now, what's interesting about that observation is that one, I did my kind of traditional now run through the pit area and see how many drivers I can get before they run back to Gasoline Alley and get into an engineering meeting, was Santino Ferrucci. And Santino immediately contradicted what I had been thinking about understeer.
Oh yeah, we were hella loose, so we just took it back, had to do a set down, found a couple things that I have no idea, just magically just didn't set back right, came back out, and I was actually pretty happy with the race car. Just we were delayed on our pit stop practice, and we didn't really get out there for the end of the day, so it is what it is.
Another person I was surprised to run into, but pleased to run into, was 2014 Indianapolis 500 and 2012 Series champion Ryan Hunter-Reay. And he doesn't need any more introduction than that, right? I got to talk to him about quite a few different things. He's an insightful guy. Obviously, he's a winner. Let's hear him. I don't need to tell you, you need to be in a car, but what are you doing for the 7017?
I'm just working with the whole team. I mean, it's a great group of people there. Callum's got a lot of talent. I've been friends with Ricardo Juncos, and it was a good opportunity for me to kind of assist in any way that I can, not necessarily just on the driver's side, all across. So, I kind of wanted to be here anyway, and with the whole Ganassi deal, and it just made sense.
What's your evaluation of Callum as a driver? Does he remind you of anybody?
He's just got a lot of talent. He's relying on that raw talent right now and learning this place. It's always interesting when you have somebody coming from Europe or from that kind of F1 paddock when they come over here, just how they adapt to the whole thing. It is completely foreign to him. Obviously, he's done Texas, the race, and he's done a good job. He's with a team that is at the same time learning with him in some regards. So there's a lot of moving pieces to it all, and he's getting along day by day. Yesterday, losing the day to rain didn't help him, but that's Indy. It happens, and it's just kind of at times it's a little bit drinking from a fire hose.
Do you have any interpretation of who's quick and maybe could win this thing as a former driver?
I'm not really sure. The Ganassi cars look super strong, and they've been there. They absolutely do look strong. You know, the VK today and Noto was quick. The Penske seemed like they figured some stuff out from last year. But I'd have to say right now the best form has looked like the Ganassi cars across the board, consistency-wise. When you're talking, I mean, they mostly did, you know, a lot of race running. Look at Jimmie today; he did 150 plus laps. It's a lot of practice time, and they definitely know what they're doing to get prepared for it.
So one of the things I got to talk about with Mark Janes on IndyCar Radio was the Dale Coyne Racing team. That's what I want to start off with here. Looks like Takuma Sato and David Malukas are quite quick indeed. Obviously, Sato was top the first 2 practice sessions for this race. We haven't really seen them factor in on the no-toe times, and I also really haven't seen them make a whole lot of passes in practice, but they have 2 not brand new speedway cars, but 2 super speedway cars that have been kept away from the rest of the field or rest of the rotation chassis-wise the entire year. So they have been working on those cars all year long, and at least in the practice sessions, it's paying off. I'm interested to see how fast they go tomorrow, but I think you cannot deny the impact that Takuma Sato has on a team when he comes here to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He may be one of the most underrated and most valuable drivers you could have on your team, which is hard to believe for a 2-time Indianapolis 500 winner, but it doesn't seem like he ever finds a permanent home. That's what I can't believe about that. The quiet teams are the ones I also want to point out. Andretti Autosport and Team Penske. Team Penske didn't even go out in happy hour. They seem very confident that they have something up their sleeve. Every time I've talked to a Team Penske driver and talked about Indianapolis, it seems like they've corrected the issues from last year. Considering what we may or may not know about the Chevy power plant and how much power it will produce going into qualifying, then you start thinking about the race, then you think about Texas, how dominant they were there. I wouldn't be surprised to see Team Penske up there, and it looks like from the Honda contingent, number one, I don't think Ganassi's shown its hand yet. I think they've got a lot more in the bank, but if they don't, the leader from the Honda contingent will absolutely be Andretti Autosport. They look extremely fast. Remember, they're generating data from 7 different cars, including the Meyer-Shank Racing duo, so they've got a lot of data to go over, and obviously, from a qualifying perspective, they're already quick on the no-toe charts, but when they get all that data tomorrow, I think it'll speed them up. But again, that's kind of when you think about Ganassi, 5 cars, 5 solid drivers. I think the Honda strength is going to be numbers. The Chevy strength is going to be that brute strength with Team Penske and Ed Carpenter Racing. And speaking of the brute strength of Ed Carpenter Racing, Rinus VeeKay has been so quiet this month, but I really think that he's got a lot more than he's showing right now, and we're going to have to see in qualifying. You think back to 2020 where he pulled a rabbit out of his hat, where Honda was so dominant and they're all by his lonesome in the Fast 9, was Rinus VeeKay with a Chevrolet. He was on the front row last year. I wouldn't be surprised to see him mix it up with the Penske cars if indeed the Chevys are that dominant. And finally, Sage Karam. Like I mentioned, he's qualified in the back row 3 years in a row. I don't think that's going to happen unless an act of God prevents him from doing it. I think he really was focused on qualifying this year, getting that right, because when you think about him racing into the top 10 last year, I think from Sage's perspective, if he could just qualify better, he will really factor in to the decision of the Indianapolis 500, the 106th running. So thank you guys so much for watching. This has been David Land on YouTube. Subscribe for more IndyCar and Indianapolis 500 month coverage. We'll see you in the next video for Fast Friday. Huge speeds expected. I wouldn't be surprised to see 235 miles per hour tomorrow. I think the pole speed will be around 233, but we'll have to wait and see. We'll see you then.